Hello again and welcome to this second part of the video. In this part we are going to start with the baby's face, and I do hope you managed to get the hair to where we are right now, the mom's hair, because I didn't talk too much about the details, but I just kind of let it flow and just played around with the brush and the three shades that I mentioned in the previous video. So I do hope you were able to get to somewhere where I was, but really I just felt like I don't have much to say about the process. So in this portion we are going to start by wetting the baby's face and hair. And I'm still using my usual Escoda Perla size 10 brush, and later on I will give you some recommendations of different brushes, but for now this is my ride or die, so this is what I use and stick to. So when wetting the baby's face, just be mindful and leave out the eye area. I always like to keep that dry as to not to paint it with anything, because I either leave the white of the eye completely white or I will paint it blue, which is the natural color of the eye white. So after wetting it, we are going to mix the usual skin tone yellow ochre with quinacridone coral. The yellow ochre I use is by Winsor & Newton, and the quinacridone coral is by Daniel Smith. And I have very specific reasons why I use these two brands. For the yellow ochre, at least for the skin tone, I use Winsor & Newton because it's a very light and not too not too vibrant color, and the quinacridone coral by Daniel Smith is just perfection. It just blends out very beautifully, and it's a perfect tone between red and orange, I guess. Red, pink and orange. So it's just beautiful. So the front portion of the baby's face is going to be the darkest, because it has the shadow from the mom's face, and it's going to be the same for the mom's face, that the front of her face, especially around her lips and chin, is going to be the darkest area because of the baby's face that casts shadow over her face. So we are going to put the darkest shades there, and also I'm painting shades around her, where her hair meets her face. When I'm happy with the end result of the face of the baby, I'm actually going to move on to her or his arm that is bare skinned, and first of all I'm going to wet it, and then using the same yellow ochre and quinacridone coral combination, I'm going to add some shadows there as well. Actually, what you will see me do just in a second is that I'm pretty much putting the same color, the same shade all over the skin, and the reason why is that you don't always have to, put a lot of shadows and highlights. And even though we used a lot of saturation on their clothes, I kept the skin pretty simple. Of course, later on we are going to contour the fingers and the hand and the arm, but for now let's just keep it light and easy. My main point here was to create a smooth surface. I don't like especially for babies' hands and face or skin, I don't like to create sharp lines, so everything has to be smooth and beautifully worked out. And after we are happy with the end result, we are going to switch brushes. We are going to switch to a contour brush that is size 0 by the same brand as Escoda Perla. And we are going to move back to the damp area of the baby's hair. If you remember, we just wetted it a few minutes ago. So it's still damp, it's not too wet. So it's going to give us the perfect surface to paint hair strings. I'm going to start by adding yellow ochre, which is the same color that we use for the mom's hair, that is the most highlighted part. So they are going to kind of almost have the same hair color, although the baby's hair is going to be a lot softer. If you remember, we went on with the mommy's hair, wet on dry, and we are going on in with the baby's hair with wet on wet. So it's going to give a softer feeling to the whole hair area. And moving from the top of the baby's head towards the back of her or his hair, we are just going to add lines that kind of give a feeling of how her hair falls and how it is more in line with her face on the top, and it like falls out or stands out on the back, like it's going really crazy. It's just like my toddler's hair. Like her hair is started to grow now. I mean, it always grew, but now it's a bit longer. And on the top of her head, it's nice and straight. And in the back, you can see that it's all a lot of mess. It's really funny. So just get a feeling of how her hair falls around her face. And then we are going to let it dry. And moving on to the mom's hand, we are going to first wet it as usual. We are working on wet most of the time. Maybe this video is an exception because this highly saturated style is calls for a dry paper, but for the skin tone anyway, I'm still going in with a smooth surface, and I want both of their skins to be very smooth and beautiful. So we are just going to paint wet on wet, and using the same yellow ochre and quinacridone coral we used on their faces, we are going to paint the hand area. And in the beginning, I just like to make sure to have color all over the hand, and later on we can worry about shadowing and the details. And what I'm doing here right now is just making sure that the skin is smooth and that all parts of her skin has some color. And it makes such a difference even if you just color every single part of the painting. And then I'm adding more saturated colors towards the end parts of the fingers, and especially the bottom portion of the hand, which is a little bit darker than the rest. And at the same time, I'm also outlining wet on wet, so that the shadows kind of melt together with the highlights, and it's just going to create a beautiful but very simple effect. And when I'm happy with the hand portion, it's time to go and do the background area, which is right now the largest area, and I think the only one that is kept white that shouldn't be white. I mean, of course, the highlights are white of the clothes, but we are going to leave that white while the background calls for some color. At least I don't like white backgrounds. So using this super cheap wide brush, I'm going to wet the background with clear water. And I bought this brush at Ocean, so I think you can get it in at any basic grocery store that sells cheap art supplies as well. And I wasn't going to spend a lot of money on a brush that I'm only using to wet the backgrounds. I don't really use it for anything else, so for me it was perfect. I think this brush was in a set of 3. This is the smaller one, and the whole set was around 3 or 4 euros, so it's a really cheap deal. While if you buy a single brush of this that is high quality, it can go up from 40 euros to even further, or 30 euros to even further, for which I really wasn't going to spend that much money. Now we are just making sure that the whole background area is wet, carefully painting around the silhouette of the mom and the child. And then in no particular order, I'm going in with yellow, orange and red, and just creating spots and fun color spots around the whole background area. I wanted this to be a fun and really spontaneous and expressionist style, so that the background is not like air or trees or nothing in particular that you quite put your hand on, quite point your finger on, but just something fun, something colorful. So they could be at the fair, they could be at the playground, wherever you can imagine them to be. So now I'm adding a lemon yellow to our background, and as you can see, I'm just adding spots everywhere out of no order. There is no rule of how to make this kind of a background, and you will see how the colors nicely melt together. Our next color is going to be quinacridone gold, and just doing the same, putting spots everywhere out of in no particular order. So now my baby woke up from her afternoon nap, so if you hear her in the background playing and running around, I'm sorry for the extra noise, but I hope you don't mind. At least I love it. I love listening to her being part of my videos. So using quinacridone gold, I'm adding a loads of extra drops, and I don't mind blurring them around right now because they are going to be fading away anyway because of the first layer of water we added. And we are just going to keep on adding color until we are happy. If you don't like the way that I painted the background, you can use your own patterns, your own colors, and even your own way of applying them. It doesn't have to be wet on wet, it doesn't have to be spots. It just depends on your personal preferences. But for this painting, I wanted to try this wet on wet spot kind of technique. Yeah, so the next color that I'm adding is yellow ochre, and I actually add quite a bit of quinacridone by Winsor & Newton gold here. So for a second, I had to stop and think if that is the color that I'm using, because it looks kind of orangey here. It's a very beautiful, very versatile color. But yeah, it's not an orange color, it's just deeper than our original quinacridone gold and the some kind of color yellow that we went on with. So this is kind of like an autumny, brownish, yellowish color, and I love it. And just keep adding spots with my size 10 Escoda brush. The next color is going to be red. I believe I use Schmincke shade here. I don't know exactly which one, but any red will do that you like. As you see, our original yellow and quinacridone gold have already started to fade away. And now you can see the red spots and the warm yellow ochre spots a lot more. But even that, we want them to be fading away. At least for my painting, I didn't want them to be so much contrast, had to have so much contrast, because right now if you look at the painting, the background takes away from the actual painting, and we want it to be the other way around. I would have wanted to have a soft but brightly colored background with the most focus being on the mommy and the child. So naturally I would want to soften the edges of the spots. After I'm happy with the background, I'm going to start contouring the face, and using Escoda Perla size 0 brush and Raw Umber by Winsor & Newton, I'm going to start contouring the mom's eyes. So just basically going around the sketch that I outlined already. And I'm using quite a thick one on the mom's eye. And thick meaning that, you know, when you use a contour brush, you can create fine lines and create really thin ones that you don't actually see, but for now we wanted to make it quite visible and quite obvious. After I'm happy with that, I'm going to be adding midtones to the corners of the eyes. So the inner and outer corners are more in the shadow area, leaving the middle of the eyelid the most highlighted one. And this is the way the light hits naturally. So it's going to look a lot better than if we just left it blank. And for the other eye, we're going to leave that in the shadow completely, because the baby's face and the mommy's hair casts a shadow over the whole area of her left side of her face. So for now I'm just going to keep adding right now the lashes, and then keep adding on the midtones to the corners of the eyes, so that the most highlighted area is the center of the lid. And then when I'm happy with that, I'm going on to the right side of mommy's face, doing the eyes and the eyebrows, and then moving on to contouring her nose and down as we go. So the most important right here, I think, is to just learn how to paint fine lines. And I know how annoying it sounds, because I've been hearing it for quite a few years. It's just the advice I'm going to give you now is just to keep practicing. And I hated to hear this, because I thought, well, there's gotta be a way that I can paint fine lines or whatever I want to do in watercolor beautifully straight ahead. But actually, no. I mean, of course, if you slow down enough and you take your time, and the whole painting is going to take you like a day to complete, not like 2 or 3 hours like we are doing right now, then you can manage to learn fine lines and all the other parts of this painting straight ahead. But otherwise, not to have the edges go either way, look so wavy at the edges, you're just going to have to keep practicing. Like, it's what you see me doing right now is what I've been practicing for, I think, for years at this point. So if you are not entirely happy with your contouring just as of right now, please don't stop painting. Please don't stop the process. You are going to get there, and you will be very happy that you didn't stop earlier. For now, let's just focus on what's in front of us and contour the mom's lips and fine lines, her chin and her contours. And the most important bit is where the mommy meets the baby's face. And it took me quite a long time, as you will see later on, to get this right. But in the end, I was pretty happy with what I did there. So I hope you feel the same way. But if you see any mistake that I'm making along the way or that you don't like, you are very welcome to fix it in your own painting. Because this is just me showing you how I paint. It's not an exact rule of this is the way you should be doing it. So right now what I'm doing, using raw umber and the same size 0 contour brush, I'm just adding more and more shadows and carefully trying to fade it out into mommy's original face color. And we are going to keep doing that for a very long time to come. And even after I start painting other areas and contouring, I will come back to this, because I felt like I have to get this right in order to get to where I want to be. Next is the baby's eye, and for that I'm going to go in with raw umber at first and just very carefully, very slowly mapping out how his or her eye is going to be. And the most important thing, I think, in painting an eye is to keep some parts white because of the reflections. You know, your eyes look like glass balls, and a lot of things reflect back on it, especially if you are outside, if you are in heavy lights. All of the lights, the sunlight, the lamps are reflected back on your eye, and it's quite an obvious part of the human or animal eye. Now I'm just going to be contouring the baby's face and his or her nose, and just making sure it's not a straight line out of the blue. I'm going to fade it out into the baby's skin as well, because I want her face to be very soft and beautiful instead of having like sharp lines. The sharp lines should be her eyes and her eyebrows, maybe her lips, his or her lips only. So I will just keep on contouring down to her chin, her face, her lips. And of course my current favorite part, which is the baby's or a human ear. And it's really very simple, but adds a lot of dimension to the human face to get the ears right. And I wouldn't even say that I get the ears right, but I'm just trying to get there, trying to make it a little bit better. So right now I'm starting at the top of the corner of the ears, but most importantly what I would like to add is just a mid-tone shadow to the inner part of the ear, where the little ear cave is, and to show the beautiful intricate shape of the ear and how it is going. I think it's very beautiful, and I especially love the paintings where they contour and highlight human ear, because it just adds so much clarity to a human face. Next I'm gonna head down and do the baby's arm, and this is also a very important part, since his or her hand is touching mom's necklace and she is focusing on playing with the necklace or examining the necklace. And this is so typical of me on my baby. When she was smaller and I would put on a necklace, she wouldn't be able to take her eyes off the necklace. So I think it's a beautiful moment to capture and paint. And so the hands, of course, are very important to contour, so that the focus being on the baby and her gaze. And the next important thing is the hands, where she's looking at. So this was part 2 of this mommy and toddler video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the third and last part of this video tutorial. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.